It is an honor to be part of this forum that brings us together today. I thank the ETH Institute for the kind invitation. As a contribution to the theme Metamorphoses, transforming the existing stock to sustainably design settlement spaces, I will show the project of SESC 24 de Maio by Paulo Mendes da Rocha and MMBB, the office I belong to. SESC 24 de Maio is located in the historic center of São Paulo that is immensely dense, diverse, and hosts extremely varied cultural manifestations. As the city developed, a number of other important centralities were formed, but the historic center continues to be a reference for the metropolis as a whole. This sketch by Paulo Mendes da Rocha is a nice image of an idea of the city. It was made long before any prospect of designing the SESC 24 de Maio. In the middle of the Praça da República, a very important square in the center of the city, two concrete buttresses on the ends of 100 by 100 meters suspended volume configure a public swimming pool, and at the same time forms a marquee which provides shade for varied events, a party, a market, a meeting, an urban beach. This is an image of an elevated road that disastrously cuts through the city center. On weekends, it is closed to traffic and becomes a place for several other events. People appropriate the space, as is the case here with these water games. Architecture is made by people through the creative enjoyment of possibilities as they present themselves. To imagine a SESC where the swimming pool is a fundamental part of the program in the center of São Paulo meant for us to imagine the biggest possible pool in the sun between the dense mass of constructed buildings. It is amusing to think that the real estate market builds small pools on rooftop apartments that are marketed as a high luxury few can afford. And this is a popular public swimming pool with a capacity for 400 people simultaneously. It is worth explaining here what type of organization the SESC is in São Paulo. This image is of the wonderful SESC Pompeia, designed by Lina Bobardi, who perhaps many of you know. SESC is an institution that oversees 38 activity centers that bring together various fields of expertise, articulated through a variety of cultural, educational, sports, leisure, and health programs. SESC activities are guided by its educational ethics as well as the pursuit of broader social well-being, in which the term culture is understood in its full spectrum. In this sense, the full accessibility to the space and contents offered by the institution enhances the democratization of cultural values as a form of individual autonomy and the practice of citizenship. We believe that the process of transformation and development of cities such as São Paulo is made by slowly adapting to the changes of customs and the way of life of the societies that build them. SESC 24 de Maio, in the same way as SESC Pompeia, occupies an existing building. In this case, the building used to be the flagship of the Mesbla department store, and both SESC projects represent exemplary challenges of architectural intervention that redefine the whole of built heritage in the city. The shop was on the ground floor and first floor, and was intensely frequented, but the other 11 floors were administrative support and storage. The structure has an ambitious span of around 4 meters between columns and low ceilings, making it enormously difficult to adapt to the new program's demands. Demolition was seriously considered as the building had no relevant importance from a historical or architectural point of view, and its adaptation presented so many difficulties. But it was there, as built heritage, and the transformation, the occupation of that heritage is fundamentally important in the transformation of cities, as I mentioned. The fact that the building is organized around a central void in the lot allowed us to imagine the possibility of the adaptation we desired. On this plan, the demolished areas are shaded in sepia. The preserved building that uniformly developed over 13 floors is in white. The structures represented in gray are previously existing. New structures are in black. In the central void, there are 4 columns and slabs distributed on some of the floors for a new structure which holds the volume of the swimming pool, built completely independent of the existing structure as it has to be. A section where we can clearly see the new structure as a building inside the old one. The central void was also strategic for the organization of the construction, where a crane was installed once the entire lot was taken over by construction. That is the last floor of the existing building. The swimming pool above it. In addition to the concrete pool, a large steel structure along the 3 limits of the new upper volume complements the solarium, and what corresponds to the depth of the tank accommodates the pool's changing rooms. The set of activities is organized vertically, with each floor dedicated to a specific program, but which are related in sets of 2 or 3 floors. In some cases, the central void is kept, creating an association between 2 floors, as for example, with exhibitions and art studios or with sports. In addition to the formal vertical circulation system of elevators and fire escape staircases, there is a ramp system running the entire length of the building as an extension of the sidewalk. It's like a continuation of a walk in the city where one finds different spaces, a cafe, a library, a square, a beach. It is one way of experiencing the building in a very festive manner. The ramp itself is a place of meetings and games. The Centro Novo, as this region of the historic center of city of São Paulo is known, became what is today between the 30s and 60s, with the construction of a notable set of modern, mixed-use buildings, with ground floors occupied by extensive shopping arcades that cut through blocks internally. The SESC ground floor was built in a similar fashion, as a freely accessed square, interconnecting 2 streets and characterizing the entrance foyer. In the image, black areas represent the set of possible routes through the city. The corner was the access to the old shop. Although the building is no longer accessed from here, a large window onto the street was created. This is one of the 2 accesses on Rua 24 de Maio. This is the ground floor plan. The double-height internal square I described earlier, with the reception volume forming the corner. I would like to mention here that when we made our first visit to the original building with SESC director Danilo Miranda, Paulo Mendes da Rocha noticed a small neighboring building on a 7 per 20 meter lot, especially small for this part of the city, which was for sale. I mean this building here. He suggested that the SESC should buy the building and made a beautiful comparison, saying the main building would be the ship and that the small annex should function as a task boat that approaches the ship for maintenance and refueling. The SESC purchased the building, and this annex is where all equipment, toilets, changing rooms and storage are installed. A service annex, the task boat. An image of the square. The idea of the annex is always beautiful in architecture, the creation of your own neighbor. The annex can always be seen from the ramps and vice versa. The original building already had a basement used as a car park. We installed the theater here, which is still connected to the city by a 6-meter wide staircase. The cafe and foyer. The original basement level was lowered by 3 meters in the central portion to form the void of the stage and develop the stalls, respecting the limits of the existing building's foundations. Dressing rooms are on the same level in the annex building. It is a certain theater, without a shaped downstage or stage box, which coexists with the set of existing and new columns. It has a nice feature, which is that the access level develops around the entire void of the stage and audience. At live concerts, people go to the side box to dance. On the first floor, the administrative offices overlook the street and the internal central void. The SESC restaurant is well known and popular, and at busy times a queue stretches along the ramps. I was told the other day that there was a street vendor selling sweets to the people waiting in line. I found it very funny, a completely urban situation. Buildings in this part of the city are built in alignment with the lots, creating a pleasing proximity between them. On the other side of the street, we can see the rag gallery. Conviviality is part of the SESC program. This floor is open, without frames, free of any specific program, and functions as a strategically elevated square. The library level. As I said, the library, restaurant, and conviviality make a block of the program. The frequent columns were often used as support for furniture, as a strategy of transforming interference into something supporting an effective use. The exhibition hall with a double height space in the center. The art studios immediately above. The dental clinic. It's curious because SESC offers this health service among all the other cultural and sports programs. From the start, all installations were imagined to be visible, but as work progressed, we gradually stripped them down further. The electro panels that you see in this picture were initially going to be placed in a cupboard, but we left them like that. The sports floor also has a double height central area. The changing rooms overlook the void that directly connects the two floors. This section shows one of the side alignments of the building, which in places abuts the neighbor, creating a situation of balconies distributed through different floors, with double or even triple heights. They are like elevated gardens. In this case, is the conviviality floor or the sports floor, the swimming pool solarium. It is actually a lateral void that runs along the entire building. The dance floor. The 4 central columns support a set of bars and mirrors. This is the last level of the original building, clearly noticeable because all we see now is the new structure. It is the pool garden. Again, it's like a square with a cafe, which complements the pool program just above. As the pool is one of the few places with controlled access for safety reasons, the reflecting pool on this level is a free water play area for everybody. Initially, we hadn't imagined this, but from the first day, people went into the reflecting pool and freely appropriated the space. Today, it is one of the most successful programs. The pool changing rooms are accommodated around the pool structure. The last stretch of ramp leads to the pool. The pool is 25 by 25 meters. It is the largest possible in this situation. In the sun. I took this picture during the construction at a moment of rest, and I like it very much. People look for a comfortable situation in the most unexpected ways. We are also invited to design the furniture for the building. SESC 24 de Maio receives on average 10,000 visitors per day. The maintenance and durability of the furniture is an important issue. This is why we choose the steel as the basic material for execution of the furniture. We also like the idea of using construction labor, the solid bar, the metal sheet, the weld. The piece you see in the picture is one of those tools that are made on site to solve needs that arise. It is beautiful to observe the ingenuity and grace of the strictly necessary. The tripods, 3 points that define a plane, is the best way to relate to the often irregular floor of the construction. The piece attached on top is a support for all types of pipes or wiring during their installation, of quite varied heights. This piece served as a motivation for thinking about the design of all the furniture. The piece found in the construction became table legs with a different part for attaching the surface. The production of prototype was essential. Steel has an interesting elasticity, but it needs to be well dosed by the geometry of the design. The first table we produced wobbled in such a way it was nicknamed tremor. The triangular table allows for a number of interesting articulations. The chair, with and without arms. The sofa is a curious piece to design for a collective use contest. It's being such a domestic piece. We imagine a base structure that accommodates 4 seats. It is a system. The base, once again, the elasticity of steel associated to a certain geometry makes the backrest accommodate different types of people. The gap between the 2 plates accommodates the spinal column. There is a nice association when the direction of the piece is reversed. The furniture no longer has a front and back, people sit face to face. In Brazil, we call this piece a conversadeira or namoradeira, that we can maybe translate to talking chairs or flirting chairs. If you take one of the seats, one table can be installed as an accessory to the system. The armchair is the same seat on another stand. And to change the stand, using a different geometry, the armchair becomes a low chair with greater inclination. That's it. Thank you very much.
Hello, Marta. Thank you so much. I see you over there, but you see me and yourself as well, I think, with Zoom. Yeah. So don't worry. Everybody sees you. Everybody hears you. Welcome. Welcome in Zurich. We are now connected with Zoom. We watched your video, and now we are very happy to ask you questions. And I think you don't see the audience. There are a lot of interested people here, so I just ask maybe, does anyone want to start and ask a question? Yes, I see the first question over there. Please talk to the microphone and then you should hear the question. If you don't, please tell me.
Okay, you did.
Yes, please.
I'm Fernando, I'm also from Brazil. Marta, prazer, a gente se conhece.
Oi.
Tudo bem? It's a wonderful presentation, and we say in Brazil that this is a manifestic building about an urban, architectural, and ecological transition. And I would like to discuss in this main stock policies possible to do about using this building as a background. The question about the rooftops. This swimming pool is open space, is like a beach in the middle of the city of São Paulo. And then I would like to ask about how can we reinforce some tools, some regulations to reinforce the rooftops as a space of circular economy, to clean energy, organic waste, different uses and purpose that I believe that in São Paulo and around the world we can redraw. So my question, it's having this wonderful swimming pool, it's a majestic, it's a manifest. How can we discuss a policy to transform different rooftops around the world?
Well, rooftops around the world. Maybe, I mean, that's a big question, and in different places it is quite different, but maybe, Marta, you can explain how it was possible in São Paulo, because when we hear it here in Switzerland, maybe we can learn something out of it.
Well, I think, oi Fernando, and hi to everybody. It's a pleasure to be here, even through Zoom. And thank you for all to be here as well. Well, I think in SESC, we decided to put the pool in the sun. So that was quite a first decision. And I think that is interesting, the occupation of the rooftops also, because it means that you have to go to that. I mean, you need to go through the buildings, or you need to think about a circulation that also puts you there in that situation, in that point of view. Because it's beautiful the way also that you related with the city, isn't it? Well, the view that you can have from this point. In SESC building also, we made this happen in different levels. It's not just the pool in the rooftop. We have the cafe just 2 floors down, and then you have the conviviality again, like some gardens through the building. And I think that is a very interesting strategy, but we are in a tropical condition, so it's hot. That also makes possible, very possible for us to do this kind of strategy. Also, I think it's very important to think in that accessibility in the circulation. So the ramps were a very, I think today that was a very good decision, because I think people frequent the building with no constraints. It's not the situation you go inside a stair or you wait for a lift. People feel very free to frequent the building, to go there, you know. So that is a very important thing as well.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. So it's the use of the rooftop as a public space, instead of a place for the technical infrastructure of the building, as it is also very common. I have another question related to the first little example that you've shown at the beginning, this elevated road that during the weekends is close to traffic and used by the inhabitants of the neighborhood for very different things and events. So here we talk about, this is an example without a building intervention. It is really not a physical transformation, but a transformation of the use, of a new use for an existing structure. We talked a lot about this approach this morning. So to build less and to think more and to use in other ways. Do you think that this approach should be more practiced also? Do you think that it has a potential?
I think it has a big potential. I think people feeling comfortable and feeling free to appropriate the space is a very desirable thing, and it's very surprising, you know. Lúcio Costa wrote a letter or a text speaking about Brasilia speaking about the bus terminal of Brasilia, talking about that, talking about the surprising that we have with people action in the architecture, you know, appropriating the spaces with this potential. Another thing that we could comment that is nice, when we have this very dense occupied part of the city, a more informal city, we have the football pitches as the voids, you know. The city very occupied, very densely occupied, but the football pitch is kept as a void. So people recognize there a social value, a common value. So I think that is very important, you know, that we feel comfortable to appropriate space in an enjoyable and creative manner.
So it's quite an architecture, an inviting architecture. We have one more question, I see. Hubert, please.
Bon dia, Marta. This is Hubert from Caracas. How is Milton?
Hey, Hubert.
How is Milton
Bon
and Fernando?
dia.
Hello. Sorry, I have to just say hello to her. Yes, obviously you guys are very smart, and São Paulo is smart, because what Marta showed and how they work is actually understanding the locality, the vernacularity of the city. And I just wanted to add that just under the pool is a boxing ring, right? So it's not only on top of the street, which is a totally normal feature that you used it, but even below the elevated highway there is a boxing ring, and there are so many other things that you all know and which are fantastic. But I do have a question also for you, and to share your answer with the audience here. There have been so many abandoned buildings downtown São Paulo, despite the fact that you have there Oscar Niemeyer's famous structures, etc. It has been very abandoned also, and I'm wondering if your building that you did together with Paulo Mendes, if your building and even adding floors and program and 10,000 people per day, just guys think about it, 10,000 people per day, any building in Switzerland, I don't know who has so much frequency, maybe the train station, has that made a change in the city center? Is this sort of intervention a game changer in downtown Sao Paulo?
Well, I don't.
The surroundings, I mean.
I think it changed a little bit. It's not. It's very recent, really, for this kind of transformation. It's 5 years now, almost 5 years, that was inaugurated, and I think it changed a little bit. I think it's a kind of transformation that takes time. But I think there are other possibilities today that are very interesting, because there is a movement of occupation of buildings in the center of the city, from people talking about the habitação, housing, you know. So people, a policy of transforming these buildings in housing buildings with this use. So I think it's a very important movement and a very legitimate one. So I think this kind of we have to have people living there. That is the real potential transformation, I think. I think SESC made a transformation, but in itself is not just so, you know. I think we have to really have people living intensely around that. And there is this potentiality the infrastructure, the services, the work are all there. We have a very potent city in the center.
Thank you. Are there more questions? This is the last chance. No, not really, but almost. Well, there are no more questions, Marta. So I thank you very much for your lecture and also for your answers to the questions. And please stay with us a little bit longer. We will now hear Martin Chiren, and afterwards we will discuss with him, and maybe there will be topics that concern you both, so maybe we can take up the discussion again. But for now, I say thank you so much.